Hello, my name is Rob Klein. Last summer in a YouTube video I warned that then-candidate Obama was no mere liberal Democrat. Rather, he was a left-wing radical ideologue whose goal was no less than a reordering of American society by eliminating our capitalist free market system and replacing it with a system in which the government would control every aspect of an individual's personal economic life. The discussion that follows is not one that pits liberals against conservatives, nor is it an issue of Republicans versus Democrats. It is also not an issue of where we allocate our resources, for example, to healthcare and education or to our military. Rather, this is the most profound issue our country has ever faced. The issue being whether as a nation we eliminate the economic system under which we have grown and prospered for over 300 years. Over the next few minutes, I will connect the dots of President Obama's grand plan. President Obama will accomplish his goal of nationalizing our economy through a four-point scheme. First, through the passage of numerous employment laws, which, although seemingly disparate and unrelated on their face, in fact have a common thread, which is to dramatically flatten wages throughout our economy. Second, by eliminating taxation on over one-half the populace, resulting in majority ballot box support for perpetual massive government spending paid by others and redistribution of tax receipts to them. Third, by increasing taxes to a high enough level to create a strong disincentive to anyone who would otherwise risk capital to start a private enterprise. As incredible as this seems, this is President Obama's goal because it plays into the fourth prong of his program, which is to have the government fill in the resulting gap with public spending such that private enterprise will be either under direct control of the federal government or will be producing products at the behest of or for the government. President Obama accomplishes government control of the economy through three mechanisms. First, as President Obama is already proposing, by increasing spending to levels never before seen in peacetime. Under President Obama's initial budget, the federal government will become 27 to 35% of the economy depending on GDP. This means that 1 out of every 3 or 4 products and services produced by the private sector will be produced at the behest of the federal government, not the free market. Second, by nationalizing the largest remaining segment of the private economy, which is the healthcare system. And third, by using the scare tactic of global warming as a pretext to tax and regulate the rump end of the private sector economy under a cap-and-trade system such that the government can control all remaining private sector products to be produced, how they will be produced, and who is to produce them. After implementation of Obama's grand plan, the free market capitalist system which we have enjoyed and prospered under for over 300 years will no longer exist. Rather, it will have been replaced by a system in which the government controls each and every aspect of this country's economic life. Now for the details. President Obama continually speaks of a trickle-up economy. This is the very definition of communism. For the most fundamental tenet of communism is that the workers themselves would replace their bosses and create a utopian society in which benefits trickle up for all. This is the opposite of capitalism, which is a trickle-down system. Under capitalism, an individual starts a business. If successful, the products and services created trickle down to society's benefit. Further, that individual is able to trickle down employment by hiring workers. As the business grows, more workers are added, wages and benefits are improved, and the products and services are also improved, thus benefiting all through capitalism's trickle-down concept. In order to achieve a trickle-up economy, President Obama proposes enacting laws that would dramatically flatten wages throughout the American economy, such that all workers would essentially be earning the same as all other workers. On their face, each of these proposed laws appears to promote a different end. However, they have a common result, which would be a flattening of wages throughout the economy. One of the tricks that President Obama employs is in misnaming each of these laws such that they sound fair on their face. For example, President Obama strongly supports a law called the Employee Free Choice Act. This is a law that would effectively eliminate the right of workers to vote in a secret ballot election to determine whether or not they wish to be unionized. Under this law, if a union were to gather union cards of at least half the employees plus one, no election would be held. So rather than promote free choice, this law effectively bans free choice by removing employees' right to decide in secret whether they wish to be unionized. Were this law to be enacted, unionization would dramatically increase across the United States. One of the reasons President Obama supports this law is that it would also result in a dramatic flattening of wages. For in a union environment, all employees are paid the same. It does not matter whether you have more skill and ability than your co-worker, how long you've been with the company, or how hard you work. In a union, everyone gets paid the same for doing the same work. Another law that President Obama strongly supports is a law titled the Paycheck Fairness Act. Under current law, a man and a woman can be paid different wages for a job as long as the differential is based on any reason other than gender, such as the quality of their production, the quantity of their production, their skill, ability, knowledge, training, efficiency, seniority, or any other reason, as long as it's not their gender. President Obama proposes ending this concept and replacing it with one in which an employer would only be able to pay different wages based on bona fide factors, and those factors could be overcome. Most important, however, is that this law would provide for unlimited punitive damages. $3 million for a hot cup of coffee at McDonald's, or whatever else a jury might award. Small employers survive by the skin of their teeth. They don't have the luxury of having large human resource departments, and sometimes not even any human resource employee. They don't have the luxury of being able to afford scores of outside consultants to help them navigate through our difficult and complex laws. If this law were to be enacted, the threat of unlimited punitive damages and the hurdles an employer would have to overcome to prove its innocence will be so high and large that small employers will flatten wages so that they can avoid any claim in the first place. Thus, small employers, those entities which create 70% of the new jobs in our economy, will elect to pay everyone the same wage rather than risk the high cost of litigation and unlimited punitive damages. A third law that will result in the flattening of wages throughout our economy is called comparable worth. While in the Senate, President Obama was the co-sponsor of this wacky law. Under this law, the federal government, and not the marketplace, would determine the worth of each job. For under this law, the federal government will compare unrelated jobs, and if, in the federal government's view, those unrelated jobs are comparable in worth, then they must be paid the same. So let's say a company employs a machinist in its plant and a receptionist up front to greet its customers. The government can decide that the receptionist is just as important as the machinist, since a receptionist is the front line in dealing with customers. Of course, in real life, anyone can be a receptionist, but you need special training and skills to be a machinist. That is why in the free marketplace, machinists command more pay than receptionists. Which begs the question, how on earth is a bureaucrat in the government going to have the skill and ability to determine whether two jobs that are totally unrelated are somehow comparable in worth? The net result of passage of this law will be to eliminate the free market and require by operation of law a flattening of wages throughout the economy, because every job that is comparable in the government's view must be paid the same. And yet there is a fourth law whose net result will be a further flattening of wages throughout the economy. Under current law, if an employer needs to hire someone who can type 50 words per minute, the employer has a right to hire a person who meets that standard. So, by way of example, if 3 women are applying for the job, and one is white, and the other 2 happen to be black, and the white woman types 60 words per minute, but the 2 black women type less than 50 words per minute, the employer would be permitted to hire the woman who types 60 words per minute. If the 2 black women were to file a discrimination charge, the employer would prevail because it could articulate a legitimate business reason for its decision. The person that the employer hired met the standard. The people the employer did not hire did not meet the standard. President Obama proposes turning this law on its head such that under the new law, an employer will have discriminated if the result of its decision is that it has a disparate impact on a particular class of people. The reason for the employer's decision is no longer relevant. Thus, if an employer were to not hire or promote or provide the same wages for each class of employees, whether they're black or white, be they young or old, male or female, the employer will have discriminated because the result will have had a disparate impact on one class of employees relative to the other. President Obama disingenuously calls this disparate impact, but its real impact is to impose a quota system. Most Americans believe that people should be rewarded based on the content of their character and the quality of their work, not based on the color of their skin. President Obama disagrees. The result will be a further flattening of wages throughout our economy because an employer will not want to face a claim that it discriminated against a class of people by reason of differences in pay.